David Goggins begins Never Finished where most stories would end, at the top of a mountain. He has achieved fame, completed unimaginable endurance races, and become a global icon of mental toughness. Yet, standing there, he feels something dark creeping back in, complacency. The satisfaction of accomplishment quickly turns to discomfort, because he knows comfort is the slowest form of death. This book, he declares, isn't about victory, it's about the eternal fight against stagnation. He calls his mind a mental lab, a place where pain is dissected and studied. Instead of running from trauma, Goggins invites it in and forces it to teach him. He revisits his abusive childhood, poverty, and racism not for pity but to remind himself that the roots of his strength are buried in that soil. Every wound is a record of adaptation. Every failure becomes a formula. He's not telling these stories to impress anyone, he's showing how you can convert pain into energy. The book dives into the danger of letting success soften you. Goggins admits that after his first book and his viral fame, he found himself slipping, skipping workouts, sleeping in, believing his own legend. But legends, he says, die when they start believing they've made it. He writes about looking in the mirror and realizing he was no longer the same man who had run through broken bones and bloodied feet. That mirror moment, raw, unfiltered, reignites his obsession with accountability. Accountability, in Goggins' world, is sacred. He revisits his famous accountability mirror ritual, where he stands naked in front of himself and tells the truth, no matter how brutal. He writes down his weaknesses and confronts them daily. If he has gained weight, he writes it. If he has grown lazy, he says it out loud. To Goggins, self-honesty is the only way to stay free. Lies, even small ones, are chains. From here, he leads readers into new physical and mental trials. After surgeries that would sideline most athletes, Goggins begins training again, starting from zero. He documents the humiliation of losing his fitness, the struggle to rebuild his endurance, and the conversations he has with himself during those dark early mornings. He treats pain as an old friend that returns to test whether he's still willing to fight. Every repetition, every step, becomes an act of defiance against mediocrity. Through his stories, he reframes pain as a tool rather than a curse. He explains how most people flee from pain, seeing it as punishment. But in his eyes, pain is the only path to growth. The body breaks so the mind can be rebuilt stronger. He recalls running through stress fractures, battling kidney failure, and finishing races while hallucinating, not to glorify suffering, but to prove that the limits we feel are rarely physical. They are mental walls dressed up as reason. The narrative also explores what happens when motivation disappears. Goggins despises motivation because it's unreliable. Instead, he builds a lifestyle of discipline. He describes days when he wakes up empty, uninspired, and sore, yet goes out anyway. In those moments, he discovers something greater than motivation, a quiet, relentless self-respect. Discipline, he insists, is self-love in disguise. At several points, Goggins revisits the 40% rule, the idea that when your mind says you're done, you're only 40% finished. He tests it repeatedly, whether through ultramarathons or through recovery from injury. Each time he breaks through exhaustion, he discovers that the mind's ceiling is imaginary. The human spirit, he believes, is infinitely expandable if you're willing to suffer for it. But the book isn't only about suffering, it's about transformation through suffering. Goggins begins to understand that toughness alone isn't enough. True strength requires humility, the ability to start over when you've been broken. When he finds himself back at square one after surgery, he realizes he must re-earn his toughness. He must once again become the student, not the hero. That humility gives his pain new purpose. In a surprising turn, he opens up about loneliness, the cost of obsession. Being hard all the time isolates him. He begins to see that growth isn't only about dominating challenges but also about finding balance, about letting people in. Yet even here, his solution isn't to soften but to evolve. He learns to connect without losing his edge, to lead by example rather than through intimidation. The war within becomes not just about endurance but about humanity. Goggins also explores the idea of identity. Too many people, he says, let titles define them: soldier, athlete, CEO, mother, husband. When those titles fall away, they collapse. He refuses to let any single label own him. He reinvents himself constantly, forcing discomfort as a way to remain alive. He runs ultramarathons not to prove he's an athlete but to remind himself he's limitless. The second half of the book reads almost like a training log for the soul. Goggins introduces evolutions, mental workouts hidden within stories. Each race, each recovery, each hardship is a case study in adaptation. Readers are invited to perform their own evolutions, to wake earlier, to face fear deliberately, to find purpose in struggle. He challenges you not to look at his life with awe, but to look at your own with accountability. One of the most powerful passages comes when Goggins confronts his father's memory. He returns not in anger but in peace. The child inside him who once felt powerless finally meets the man who made him. In that moment, forgiveness becomes strength. The past, which once haunted him, becomes his greatest weapon. By facing it, he finally owns it completely. As the book nears its close, Goggins strips away the myth of the superhuman. He reminds readers that he still battles laziness, fear, and doubt daily. The difference is that he no longer negotiates with them. He has learned that mastery isn't the absence of weakness, it's the refusal to let weakness lead. He keeps sharpening his edge, not to stay famous but to stay alive inside his own mind. The final chapter brings the message home: there is no finish line. Every day is another round in the war within. The body will age, the accolades will fade, but the will to keep pushing, that's eternal. Goggins leaves the reader not with inspiration but with responsibility. The story isn't his anymore, it's yours. He passes the torch and whispers the mantra that defines the book: you are never finished.